The Trump administration has announced a new round of sanctions against Iran and warned countries doing business with Tehran to sever financial ties or face retaliation from the United States. Iran responded by insisting it was prepared. U.S. President Donald Trump has once again signaled his desire to resume talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, posting 3 photos of himself with Kim from their meetings in Singapore and Panmunjom on social media. Canada says it's not a subsidiary of the United States and that it will return to trade talks only if Washington treats it as an equal partner. This comes as Trump threatened to hike tariffs on automobiles originating in Canada. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. Continued conflict between Washington and Tehran is widening from financial networks to one of the world's most important shipping routes. The United States is threatening Iran's trading partners with secondary sanctions, while Tehran has blacklisted dozens of tankers in the Strait of Hormuz. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
Washington has announced a fresh wave of sanctions on Iran and countries trading with it, labeling the move as an economic D-Day for Tehran. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Monday that the latest campaign would target the international networks helping Tehran trade, evade sanctions, and finance its weapons programs.
Every country has a defined timeline to shut down activities we have identified. If they do not take action, we will do so unilaterally through Treasury authorities. For example, every branch of Bank Melay must be shuttered and dark. And let me be clear, any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the U.S. dollar system. The clock just started ticking.
The move comes nearly 6 months after the United States launched military operations against Iran. With the latest measure, Washington expands the risk of secondary sanctions to transactions involving 5 key sectors: digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. It also blacklisted more than 60 individuals, entities, and vessels allegedly helping Iran acquire nuclear and missile technology, conduct cyber operations, and generate oil revenue.
Iran's enablers purchase, transport its petroleum. They facilitate the flow of its finances through exchange houses and free trade zones. They welcome Iran's flights and maintain registries on its behalf. They turn a blind eye to seaborne fuel transfers and overland transits. They condone illicit use of their banks, all the while concealing the extent of their complicity. The president is making phone calls to world leaders with specific requests to cease their interactions with the regime. We are already seeing results.
The targets span China, Hong Kong, the UAE, Singapore, Switzerland, and Europe. Bessent said countries had been given deadlines to halt activities identified by Washington, although he declined to disclose them. Iran responded by insisting it was prepared. Economy Minister Ali Madanazadeh said Tehran had devised a 2-year plan to withstand the sanctions. Meanwhile, Iran's newly established Persian Gulf Strait Authority blacklisted 45 tankers for allegedly violating its transit rules, including 5 owned by South Korea's Sinokor Merchant Marine. Iran did not specify what rules the ships had breached, but threatened them with fines, detention, and the confiscation of their cargoes. It also warned that vessels transferring cargo to or from those ships could face similar action. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
South Korea's Foreign Minister Cho Hyun and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio have agreed to maintain close coordination on North Korea's nuclear program and peace on the Korean Peninsula. According to Seoul's foreign ministry on Monday, the 2 officials spoke over the phone, with Cho saying the South Korean government would work to ensure President Donald Trump's recent messages lead to renewed dialogue with North Korea. The 2 also pledged to pursue mutually beneficial outcomes on tariffs and investment, shipbuilding, and security cooperation. Rubio briefed Cho on developments in the Middle East, while Cho expressed Seoul's willingness to make a practical contribution towards restoring freedom of navigation through the Strait of Hormuz. The ministers agreed to meet in person soon for further talks. And U.S. President Donald Trump has once again signaled his desire to resume dialogue with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Trump posted 3 photos of himself with Kim on Truth Social on Monday, including images from their first summit in Singapore in 2018 and their meeting at Panmunjom in 2019. The posts are being seen as another conciliatory message to Pyongyang, following Trump's order to significantly scale back South Korea-U.S. joint military exercises. North Korea has so far shown little interest in responding to Trump's calls for renewed talks. Notably, none of the photos were from their 2019 Hanoi summit, which ended without an agreement. Canada says it's ready to resume trade talks with the United States, but not on terms that undermine its sovereignty or industries. The warning comes as U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to raise tariffs on Canadian vehicles and auto parts to 50%. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Canada says it is willing to return to trade negotiations with the United States, but only if Washington treats it as an equal partner. Prime Minister Mark Carney said Monday that Canada will not accept an agreement that leaves Canadian industries permanently disadvantaged or treats the country like a subsidiary of the United States.
But an attitude at the negotiation table that Canada is a subsidiary of the United States, the Canadian industry is going to be disadvantaged relative to American industry, that we're going to set up terms so that over time Canadian industry is going to face constant headwinds. That's not something we're going to accept.
The comments came after President Donald Trump imposed 50% tariffs over the weekend and threatened to expand them further. Trump also announced Monday that tariffs on all Canadian cars, trucks, and auto parts could rise to 50% beginning January 1st, 2027. The latest escalation follows the collapse of trade negotiations last Friday. A proposed deal would have reduced U.S. tariffs on Canadian cars and light-duty trucks from 25% to 15%, while cutting tariffs on aluminum and steel from 50% to 25%. But talks broke down over several unresolved issues, including whether tariff relief would also cover medium and heavy-duty trucks. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, meanwhile, said Trump also wants Canada to return to the negotiating table in good faith.
I think he would like Canada to come to the table and negotiate in good faith. They were offered quite a good deal last week. They chose to reject it.
The dispute could have major consequences for the highly integrated North American auto industry, potentially raising costs for both manufacturers and consumers. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Consumer sentiment in Korea has dropped in August for the first time in 4 months. According to the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, the composite consumer sentiment index stood at 104.5, down 2.3 points from the previous month, though it remained above 100, meaning optimists still outnumber pessimists. The central bank noted that despite solid economic fundamentals, domestic stock market corrections and cumulative inflation weakened consumer outlook, driving down overall sentiment. This follows months of gains driven by strong semiconductor exports. Hyundai Motor's labor union and management reached a tentative wage agreement on Tuesday after a series of strikes. The deal capped 111 days of negotiations with a monthly base pay hike of 100,000 Korean won, or $72, and a performance bonus worth 400% of base monthly pay. The union estimates the deal is worth an average of 40.84 million Korean won, or about $29,400 per member this year. The agreement also includes hiring 500 new production workers by 2028 and dropping 10 damage claims the company had filed against the union. The deal follows a cumulative 60 hours of strikes this year, including the union's first full-day walkout in a decade last week. Union members will vote on the agreement on August 31st. Anticipation for the Asian Games Aichi Nagoya 2026 is building, especially when it comes to esports, one of Korea's strongest disciplines. This year marks the Asian Games debut of the popular fighting game Tekken 8. Our correspondent Hong Se-jung met with Tekken legend Ni to hear about his journey and his bid for gold.
In one devastating move, the character Brian Fury takes the win. He's been controlled by the legendary Tekken 8 player, Ni. Tekken is the latest addition to the Tekken series. The fighting game has been added to the esports genre of the Asian Games 2026 for the first time. Bae Jae-min, better known as Ni, will represent South Korea as its sole Tekken 8 player. A veteran with more than 100 wins in major competitions, Ni said he's excited to see Tekken 8 make its Asian Games debut.
If you had told me 20 or 30 years ago that there would be an Asian Games and even a professional league for this, I probably wouldn't have believed you. It's still amazing to me that I'm here representing my country. Fighting games didn't always get as much attention as other major titles, but now I feel like we're finally seeing a real boom in the genre.
Tekken 8 will feature in the Asian Games as part of the 3-game team event, where each country will field one player in Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and the King of Fighters 15, with the results across all 3 titles combined to determine the winning team.
I think we have a really well-balanced team overall. I hope we can build on each other's strengths and create good synergy across the different fighting games.
Despite some concerns surrounding the aging curve as he passed 40, Ni is full of confidence.
Being able to read your opponent quickly is really important, and that's a skill that gets better with experience.
He also expressed his determination to make his mark.
I want to be remembered as Ni, an Asian Games gold medalist, and I want to create a moment where Korea stands on top.
Korea's esports scene is dominated by games like League of Legends, but if Ni can do well at the Asian Games, this could help boost Tekken's popularity here. Hong Se-jung, Arirang News.
For thousands of years, cultures across the world have preserved food through fermentation. Now science is catching up, showing that traditional dishes like kimchi may be a secret weapon for gut health. Our Kim Sa-young reports.
From Korean kimchi to German sauerkraut, fermented foods are everywhere. And doctors say the science backs it up. In fact, the U.S. government's latest dietary guidelines now encourage more fermented food in the American diet.
Fermented foods are foods that are transformed by microorganisms such as bacteria, yeast, and mold. And it actually started off as making our food more portable. But actually what we do find is it helps with our digestion through decreased inflammation, decreases oxidative stress, and generally provides basically better, healthier microbiome to help with our gut health.
Among all the options, kimchi stands out the most. Made by fermenting cabbage with garlic, ginger, and chili, it's packed with live bacteria that help balance the gut's own microbiome. And its fiber feeds those good bacteria, helping them thrive.
Some common fermented foods that we know and that are on the grocery shelves are yogurt, is the big one, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut.
Nutritionists say the key isn't one single miracle food. It's eating a variety of fermented foods regularly. And Korean tables have quietly followed that formula for generations. Kimchi alongside doenjang, other pickled vegetables, and fermented staples at nearly every meal. Now, the rest of the world is catching on. Kim Se-young, Arirang News.
A white-shouldered starling, which normally breeds in Vietnam and southern China, has been spotted raising its young in Gangneung, Gangwon-do province here in South Korea. This is the first time it has been seen nesting on the Korean mainland. Our Cha Eun-kyung reports.
A bird carrying a twig in its beak flies in and out of a narrow crack between roof tiles. The bird is about 20 centimeters long. It has a gray body and distinctive white markings on its black wings. This is a white-shouldered starling. A male and female have nested inside the roof and have been spotted bringing in food. Looking closely, a baby bird's tiny beak peeks through the crack between the tiles. When another bird approaches, the male stands guard around the nest. The bird family was first discovered on the roof of a building in Gangneung on the 15th of June. They raised a baby for nearly a month, but have not been seen since July 11th, so they are presumed to have left the nest. The white-shouldered starling typically breeds in Vietnam and southern China and winters in Southeast Asia and Taiwan. In South Korea, it is occasionally observed on islands of the western and southern coast during spring and autumn, and was first recorded breeding in the country 6 years ago on Jeju Island. The Gangneung case in the country's second recorded breeding and the first on the mainland. The National Institute of Biological Resources believes the white-shouldered starling's distribution range has expanded northward. It plans to analyze the impact of climate change by recording observations of the birds. 차윤경, Arirang News.
This is the world now. In the United States, the Trump administration is pushing to make its huge visa fees for skilled workers permanent. The Department of Homeland Security posted the proposed rule on Monday and would set the fee at just over $103,000 for new H-1B visas covering highly skilled foreign workers. Previously, those visas used to cost between $2,000 and $5,000. Trump temporarily imposed a higher fee last year, and it expires next month. The new rule faces legal challenges but could become finalized by the end of the year. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that Iran tried to kill one of his sons. Netanyahu said on Monday in a telephone interview with Israel's Channel 14 that, quote, Iran tried to murder one of my sons. He did not say when the alleged plot happened or which son was targeted. Netanyahu was answering a question about reports that Israel's Shin Bet security agency refused to give protection to a political rival ahead of the October election. He said he told the security agency chief that every candidate for prime minister should get proper security. In Haiti, gangs raided a neighborhood overlooking the capital on Sunday night, killing at least 30 people. The mayor of Kenskoff released that death toll on Monday. Kenskoff, a hillside town above Port-au-Prince, has been attacked by gangs around a dozen times since last year. Residents said the dead were killed just minutes from a police station and demanded the local police chief step down. The government has promised to restore order. New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon said on Monday his party will put a bill to Parliament banning children under 16 from social media. Platforms would have to verify users' ages and could be fined up to 10% of their global revenue. Luxon said social media is exposing children to harmful content and addictive technology. It is not clear whether the bill has enough votes to pass, and one of Luxon's coalition partners says it will not support it. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Sudden showers in the capital area and Gangwon-do province this morning have left high humidity, while Seoul has been upgraded to a heat wave warning for the first time in about 2 weeks. A dual-use sun and rain umbrella will be a must as we're still looking at a chance of passing showers, strong sunshine, and heat. Meanwhile, most of central parts of Korea will see some passing rain through the evening with 5 to 60 millimeters in the forecast along with thunderstorms. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 32 degrees, Daejeon at 34, but Daegu, Gyeongju, Busan, and Gwangju will make it to 35 degrees under sunny skies. Meanwhile, 4 typhoons have developed over the southern seas. They should not directly impact Korea, but the hot and humid air associated with typhoons could help keep the late summer heat going across Western Korea.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.
라면 먹고 싶어. 나 라면 먹고 싶어요. 매끈매끈하다, 매끈매끈한. 뿅뿅하다, 뿅뿅한. 왔니? 왔어? 고객님 왔냐고? 사람이, 몸에 좋은 약초. 라면이에요? I'm eating this right now. Let's go. 할머니! 카니 시고. 카니 시고. 카니 시고.
It may have been the tomb of a young prince,